Give us free. Give us free.
Your Honor, please instruct the defendant that he cannot disrupt these proceedings with such outbursts.
Give us free. Give us free.
If we are to have any semblance of order in this country,
Give us free.
Peace, unity, and welcome my conscious and unconscious family and friends. This is the all-new Black Village Community Podcast, and I am truly your host of the show, JC, aka Afro Black, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut, without any fear, as I use my mic as a spear to chucker you with liberated truth. I am your host and your native soldier in the struggle. My purpose and mission for this show is first to enlighten, inform, and engage. And I want to engage with all who claim to know the truth. All truth seekers and my native family, I welcome you. This show is dedicated to all our indigenous native ancestors and to all those who've carried the mantle of truth, and to every person with the ability to throw off the chains of comfortable habit and unwarranted assumption and move in a new, liberated direction that is guided by truth and observational evidence, no matter where that direction may lead you. My main objective and purpose here is freedom, mind, soul, and spirit. That being said, welcome to the Black Village Community Podcast, and much love from our great universal goddess and mother of all, living here and above.
DC in the house.
What do you mean by America is my mama?
I don't know nothing else. I wasn't eating chitlins when I was in Africa. I wasn't eating watermelon when I was in Africa. I wasn't wearing suits when I was in Africa. I wasn't getting my hair cut when I was in Africa. This bitch is my mama. This bitch is my mama. And yours too. Except I know it's mine. It's mine.
Go food. ASC got produce. ASC about to go cool. We gon' go food. ASC got produce. ASC about to go cool. Whipping in the kitchen. I be whipping in the kitchen. Chop it up. Chop it up. The slow food got you sloppy, bruh. So chop it up. Go food. Chop it up. The slow food got you sloppy, bruh. So chop it up.
See, in my hood, they ain't really much to eat. Popeyes on the corner, McDonald's right across the street. All this talk about guns and the drugs, pretty serious. But look at what they feeding y'all. That's what's really killing us. Please change. The food in my school, make it good. Get that fake food up out of my hood. Hope the message not misunderstood. Grow and cook your own food, yes you could. Got the little homies in the garden. Got the big homies selling collard greens in the north side. Ain't starving since community cooks been on the scene.
Screaming hot Cheetos and Takis, boy, you better eat your broccoli. Fake food is kinda lame, putting poison in your brain. Need more people at the club, popping bottles of that water, dabbing on that fast food. Pulling veggies out the garden, I go hard, I eat good, and I put that on my mama. Eating healthy school lunch, and that's where the Miss Obama. Drinking water, living longer, no processed drama. Call me John Deere, shawty, I be growing like a farmer. Dad.
Hey, this is JC, aka Afro Black, and I am here with you for another delicious Indigenous Sunday to share nothing but the raw and uncut here on the Black Village. That's what we do, that's what I do, and that's what I enjoy doing, sharing nothing but conscious Indigenous truth with the Indigenous and those who are not Indigenous or on a journey to be Indigenous community. You feel me? And so today's podcast subject is a continuation of last week podcast subject matter, which is part 5, why we eat the way we do, people. Podcast subject title is, and I quote again, why we eat the way we do, part 5, the plantation poisoning of a people. You feel me? So I'm continuing this subject matter because of its importance and because of more information that I want to share with the conscious and not so conscious community of what we need to do to better our health, what we need to do. And the number one thing we need to do, and I've said it last week and I'm going to say it again, we got to change the way we think, the way we live, and the way we eat, people. So, on that note, get this thing going. Let me change my theme music. Give us something more easy to vibrate to. There you go, right there. There you go. Something more easy to vibrate to right there. Tupac in the backdrop as I do this thing. You feel me? And so, on that note, I got my queen with me in the chat room here on the Village Live chat room line. She gonna be vibrating with me on this. I want a woman's perspective because we got our eating habits, a lot of the way we eat, a lot of what we love to eat, a lot of memorable, delicious foods come through our family line. And as I said last week, I mean, I'm the chef of my family, you feel me? When it comes to, soul food, when it comes to soul food desserts like my pies and stuff, I'm the chef. But I got my skills from my mother. As I said, our influence, our habits, a lot of the way we choose to eat, a lot of the way, regardless if we choose to eat healthy or we continue the way our family have taught us to eat, it's still an impact from our family. It's still an impact from our mother. If you learn that your mother didn't teach you to eat so well, that's still something you learned that your mother didn't know that she was doing. Rather, if you continue to eat and not know or make yourself ignorant, still has everything to do with the way you were taught to eat by your mother. Because the first person to feed you, the first person to teach you what to eat, the first person of an example in your life of what you should and should not eat, traditionally, customarily, or even just in general, comes from your mother. You feel me? And so, on that note, I got some audio casts I want to play. One of the audio casts that I want to play in reference to what we're going to be talking about is Dr. Sebi. Now, Dr. Sebi is a controversial subject to some people, and to some people, Dr. Sebi is not controversial, but he is a modeled figure of healthy diet and dietary way of eating. But my perspective on Dr. Sebi is that he did a lot of good, regardless of what people want to say about him. The only thing I can comment is on the good that he showed, the good that he taught. And in the process of that, does that mean that I agree with everything that he taught and everything that he said? No. There's some things I don't agree with Dr. Sebi on, but for the most part, he was an example of positive indigenous eating as far as dietary. And so on that note, I want to introduce my queen, who hasn't been on the show in a good long time. Queen, you want to holler at the community?
Hello, my beautiful people.
I am happy that you're with me. You know you've been gone for a long time. You know everybody missed you, girl. So I am so glad that you're here to join us on the show today. I don't know, as I was saying, you see what we're going to be talking about, Queen. I want you to weigh in before we get into any audio cast, before we go into anything else. Give me at least a 2-minute perspective on your perspective on health and how we eat in this country. Now, you being also raised by your European or white American side of your family, and coming together with me, a brother who's been taught to eat unhealthy, yet at the same time, there were some good things, indigenous good benefits, like, the collard greens and the mustard greens and the yams and stuff like that, the traditional things in my family. What is your perspective, Quinn? Go ahead and give your perspective.
Well, growing up, we just, we didn't eat too healthy. I wound up not eating a lot of foods my family ate because I just stopped liking them. And to my health benefits, it helped a lot. I stopped drinking milk as much as I did way before we got together, so cutting it out wasn't hard for me. I stopped liking it alone. I think after I got pregnant with my first kid, I stopped liking milk, so it wasn't too hard. And to find out the bad effects of it just recently, I'm like, I'm glad I stopped drinking milk. Now the hard part is getting the cheese.
Well, so I mean, I'm not.
I cook a lot of fruits and vegetables in my house. But other than that, we ate pretty rounded.
Well, I can speak to that. I mean, I going back almost 20 years ago when we first met, and the first dinner you made for me had no meat on the plate. It was.
I didn't eat a lot of meat. I didn't like it.
I know that now. I mean, of course I know. I've been knowing that for years now, but I didn't know that then. I didn't understand that coming from a family where, meat was the main dish on the plate, and everything else was second and third. You feel me? And so now, growing with you as a person, I see how, I've learned a lot of things from you. The health benefits of not drinking milk, the health benefits of cutting back on sugars, and eventually, we cut out processed sugars altogether, as far as we don't even buy processed sugars, as far as that being in our house. But learning as far as the things, as far as being indigenous, looking at indigenous people, and then looking at the way white America eats. What's your perspective on that?
The original diet for the indigenous people was way healthier than it is now. It's less the processed foods, which is, what they claim they want us not to eat a whole lot of processed food, but push it at the same time. That's the way I would like to eat, to be honest with you. Less sugars, real sweeteners that come naturally from foods like honey and our plants and our fruit to add to our food, to me, is the better way to eat. And that's what I was starting to go towards before we met. I wound up putting more meat in my diet than I wanted.
Well, yeah, because you was with a man who who loved eating meat. I mean, now I don't eat. I don't eat red meat. We don't eat. Pork and meat is something that pork has never been really a part of my diet, and it was not. So that wasn't hard at all to let go when I came into the knowledge of why it should be totally. Even the byproducts shouldn't be in our diet. Red meat was a process. I learned to listen to my body to learn that what you were saying was right. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about, and one of the most important things I want to bring up on today's podcast show, and this is where I think is important, where your position come in at as a female and as a mother and as a woman, is one of the most continuous, ongoing traditions in a family that we've embraced and adopted that came from Europeans, and is still an ongoing thing in this country due to now the financial, capitalistic financial aspect, corporate part of it is milk. I mean, it's something. Yeah, go ahead and get your perspective. You know, we got some information we want to read on that. I also got something. I got an audio cast I want to play by Dr. Sabi, his position on milk and what he has to say about that. Just a little brief, but go ahead and comment on that before I show any audio cast and before we go into reading anything. Go your perspective on that.
I was actually shocked to find out that the dairy industry was a government-run program. So that was a whole new thing to me. I thought it was a separate thing, but it's the same entity.
That the corporate aspect of the milk industry is the government. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the U.S. government.
And so, due to the fact when you got some people saying that our country is a government, our country is a company.
Corporation.
It's a corporation.
It's a corporation.
Then it's totally comprehensible why they can turn this, that the government can say, well, we want to go into the milk industry. Not the fact that you're trying to endorse healthy drinking or the healthy consumption of milk is more of a financial thing.
Yeah. I mean, they really started pushing it after World War II.
Did you say after World War II?
Oh, no, World War I. After World War I. They started pushing after World War I.
Well, because now
they had a surplus, so they...
You reminded me of
that's going to be information.
Let me scroll down to this. I was reading this last week. Remember, I was sharing it with you earlier. Let me go here to the food pyramid. The food pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
And then the food pyramid, which was created in the 1950s, was done for the sole purpose of making money. It was all about making money. Here we go, right here. Okay, here we go. Let me read this right quick. The 1862 Morale Land Grant Act defined the American Public Research University's ongoing mission to promote the liberal practical education of the industrialized classes in the several pursuits and professions in life. From the 1950s, scientists used the land grant system to ally their scientific and nutritional research with new policies that came to be promoted by the federal government within the University of Minnesota system. For example, Ansel Keys famously sought a new research agenda in order to question the health benefits of fats from animals, fish, and dairy, contrary to those who highlighted the problematic medical implications of foods that were readily converted into glucose, as well as the potential inflammatory effects of polyunsaturated fats. Ansel Keys, the one who sought for that land grant in the 1950s, Ansel Keys and others used their land grant mandate to promote research that supported the government of the day in the stated desire to increase agricultural output, meaning money in soy, wheat, corn, seed, oils. Scholars, scientists, public health policy analysts, and journalists have begun to suggest that the resulting federal recommendations of the food pyramid has worsened aspects of American public health, particularly through the associated growth of metabolic disorders such as diabetes, even the prevalence of certain forms of heart disease, meaning that they knew they were going to hurt the populace. They knew, but you know what? It was all about money. Ain't a damn thing funny. Am I wrong?
You still look like.
Yeah, that's what I get out of it. That's what I got out of it. Is that what you got when is some of the information you read as well when it came to milk?
When it comes to milk, yeah, they were pushing the agenda to make more money from it. That was pretty much what they're doing, despite what doctor tests had shown them what milk was actually doing to the human body.
Okay, well, you know what? Let me before we go any further in that, I just want to reiterate that article I read last week, which is about how the food pyramid came into existence in the 1950s, and the man named Ansel Keys, who was behind the whole corporate government scheme, which happened in the 1950s, because you said it happened around after World War II when they started doing this, when the government got into the milk industry. And this is around the same time that this guy named Ansel Keys was who applied for that 1862 Morale Land Grant Act so that he could start that research facility on those certain things that I just mentioned, which was unsaturated fats, oils, and stuff like that, and animal and dairy and stuff like that. And this is what we're dealing with today, the after effects of this. So I got an audio cast I want to play right quick. And this audio cast that I wanted to play, I thought was sitting there in my... I thought I already had it loaded up. I didn't get it loaded up. Maybe load it up right quick. Is Dr. Sebi. And like I said, I want to play this by Dr. Sebi because, even despite the fact that you had those who had issues with Dr. Sebi, anywhere from I've heard that he was scamming people with his health remedies and his health practices. Because he was charging anywhere from $1,800 to $1,500 to come and go to these facilities out in Nicaragua where he had his health facilities. And I personally, speaking on that, that's a whole nother thing to talk about. Rather what you should be charging or not charging people when health is a right, it should not be a luxury. And so talking about Dr. Sebi on that level is a whole nother story. But talking about some of the things that I do agree with him on that he promoted. One of the things that he promoted was not to drink milk, that you should not drink milk. And so I want to play this right quick, and then we can come back. And Queen, if you can pull up that information that you got on some of the information that we want to talk about, that we want to read to the conscious community. Why we should, mothers must stop giving their kids milk, right? Do you agree?
I agree. I think we should all just stop doing dairy, period. The best of our abilities.
And I agree with you on that. I agree. But you know what? People gotta, some people have to learn to take baby steps. You got some people that know how to go cold turkey with things, but you know what? When you're dealing with children and you got families,
I gotta take baby steps.
Yeah, you gotta take baby steps. So one of the things that mothers can start with right now is stop giving your kids milk. And there's alternatives, a lot of alternatives out there, and we can talk about those alternatives as well. But let me play this right quick, and we shall return.
When we believe that the milk of a cow, an animal, is sufficient to afford nutrition to a human body, then one has to question that, because I am not an animal. That's common sense, I think. Animals produces milk for animal babies. Human beings, women, females, produces milk for human babies. But something happened to us that we elect to do just the opposite. Instead of us giving our babies the milk of a female human, we elect and chose to give our children the milk of an animal. I think that if we are to be scientific, intelligent, and lowest on the strata, to use our common sense, is there something wrong with that? And then, to compound the problem, is that the animal that we selected to afford us this milk is an animal that was made through the process of hybridization, an animal that is godless. God did not make a cow. You see why we are titling this subject as the reconnection? How many of you sitting in the audience understood that or you knew that?
There you go right there. Dr. Sebi dropping the raw and uncut. Dr. Sebi, may he rest in peace, brother Dr. Sebi. Regardless of what anybody want to say about the brother, I truly believe he wanted everybody to be healthy. He wanted everybody to know and care about health. You feel me? And he knew that the simple things. It only take some simple changes in your life, just some simple changes to start with. You feel me? Some simple changes. Let me turn this down a little bit. Okay. Yeah, Queen, you there still?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, so you heard what Dr. Sadie said. We're not cows. Cow milk is for cows.
No. And if you think about it, cows produce enough milk for those calves who have 4 stomachs to grow.
Yeah, real talk.
And they can reach over 1,000 pounds by the time they're 2 years old.
That is definitely positively, absolutely true. Due to the fact, let me turn this down. I got to program this to stay right where I want it to stay as far as my background music. Now, a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of, especially today, we have more alternatives to turn to today than we did years ago. I remember when I was a kid growing up, I mean, the only thing that I saw out there really was like, soy milk. And a lot of the soy milk out there was disgusting. Now, and soy milk, even when it comes to soy milk, I mean, we didn't know for a long time when we had made our change, years ago to let go of milk. And we were using soy milk. We didn't know that soy milk was not good to give to male children due to the fact that it heightens the levels of not testosterone. What's the other one? Estrogen. Yeah, in boys. Yeah, it heightens. It actually raises the estrogen in boys. And so, from that aspect, it's not good for men or children, for male children. That is, but. There's so many other choices out there. Go ahead, comment on this, Queen. I want to hear a mother's perspective. Go ahead. You go ahead and talk about some of the other alternatives that mothers can give their children and what you know about some of these alternatives.
A lot of good alternatives, as long as it's in the refrigerated section. You've got your choices of almond milk, cashew milk.
Speak a little loud, please. Speak a little loud so the mothers can hear. Speak a little loud so they can hear you.
I was saying that there's almond milk, coconut milk, cashew milk. As far as some of them, there's others out. There's rice milk. As long as these milks are not shelf milks, because some shelf milks contain a chemical to sustain them on the shelf that's harmful to the body.
So there's a chemical.
Refrigerated, because the refrigerated milks are better.
There's a chemical in the milk, in the shelf milk of soy milk, almond milk, cashew milk.
Shelf milk. I don't care if it's cow's milk to almond milk to coconut milk. If it's a shelf milk and it's in a box, not like coconut milk in a can where it's been sealed where nothing can get in. But those boxed milks contain a chemical that's harmful to the body.
Is that chemical a preservative?
Yeah.
Do you remember what this chemical is? Do you know what this chemical is? Do you remember what it is, the name of it?
Carrageenan.
The chemical is called carrageenan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's used as a preservative, but it's harmful to human consumption.
Yeah, because they say in small doses it's okay, but it's in absolutely everything in every single box milk.
Is it in any?
It's a widely used preservative, just like xanthan gum is a widely used gum base to keep things cohesively together. You've got carrageenan, which is a preservative that's used in a lot of food that's not healthy.
Now, I remember my sister who's supposed to join us today. She didn't join us. She's not here. Maybe obviously something popped up. But she was mentioning that a lot of these so-called chemical preservatives that they're using in these boxed products they're basically chemically DNA mortifying. Basically, they morph, or they can basically morph your DNA. Is that not true?
I'd have to research it, but I do know it breaks down a lot of
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, she was telling me that
fight off immune problems. So yeah.
Yeah, that some of these chemicals actually mutate your DNA. The reason why I'm bringing it up because it kind of brings things to my mind where you got some people who don't know how they get vitiligo. All of a sudden they can't. All of a sudden their melanin starts to leave. It starts to dissipate, and they start to become white looking, and they don't know why this happens. And I'm like, and I'm remembering my sister reminding me that a lot of these chemicals that are in our food are destructive to our DNA. And you might not see the benefits. You might not see the effects of this, the results of this immediately. Sometimes you don't see the results until 20, 30 years later. Do you feel me?
Yeah.
And so that's why I was thinking about, the sisters and brothers out there who just out of nowhere, all of a sudden, they don't know what happened. They're 20, 30 years old. All of a sudden now they got vitiligo, like what happened with Michael Jackson. Out of nowhere, all of a sudden vitiligo. You feel me? And so I'm thinking, well, look at this stuff they put in our food, and people just going to restaurants and eating, and a lot of the restaurants, not all restaurants use organic, fresh. The general masses of restaurants use whatever they get their hands on sometime when they try to make their product for the consumer. You feel me? And so we have to, the way I'm trying to talk about today, we have to learn not only to change what we eat, we have to pay close attention to what we're buying, to what we are putting on our shelves in our house, in our home, as food in our kitchen, on our shelves. We got to pay attention to what we put in our refrigerator. We got to stop buying stuff just because it looks good, smells good, and appears that it might taste good. Or even taste good for that matter. We got to care about what we eat, and we're living in a society that teaches us just to buy or purchase things just because it looks good, smells good, and sounds good. You know what I mean? Or even for that matter, tastes good. We're not taught to care about what we consume, and that's something that our ancestors did. They cared about what they put in their bodies. So I give Brother Dr. Sabi the credit on that, and thank you, Queen, for bringing that. You said 2 chemicals are preservatives that are used to preserve shelf milk. Like even some of the
most common one is carrageenan. It's in a lot of your shelf-sustained milks. Even like if where I work at, we have a boxed chocolate milk, and it's just dairy milk, but it's shelf milk. How they keeping that dairy milk shelf, without it going bad. You grow up thinking dairy has to be in the refrigerator, and it has that chemical carrageenan in it, keeping it nice and preserved. And
we were also talking prior to the show, before I get on the air, we were talking about how the disadvantages and the long-term negative effects that milk is doing to women and to children, as far as affecting bone density, causing. I remember you mentioning to me earlier before we got on the air that even if you stop drinking milk, if you just consume other dairy products, which we are learning to let go, because I like ice cream and I like cheese. I'm learning not to love cheese, especially when I'm hearing what it does to the body. But these things contribute to colon cancers and things like that. Go ahead, Queen.
Yeah, an article that PETA had put up on 12 reasons why not to drink milk or have dairy. Also, there's a New York Times article about milk not being the best for your body. And they found out that, when women start to get older, they push drinking milk, and vitamin D helps support your bone structure. In reality, milk is actually taking away your calcium from your bones. It reduces the calcium in your bone, and for women, it causes them to actually have more fractures as they get older instead of the other way around.
Wow.
A Swedish study showed that women who consumed 4 or more servings of dairy products a day were twice as likely to develop serious ovarian cancer.
Wow. So basically,
cheese and milk are linked to the increase of developing prostate cancer.
Wow. I mean, they talking about they don't know where cancer comes from and how women are developing breast cancer. The milk is a contributing factor to breast cancer, no?
Yeah, because we're not cows. We shouldn't be drinking cow's milk, especially as we get older. There are studies proving that milk does not have any health benefits There's no significant health benefits to it. It's actually one of the fattiest things to drink, and it helps increase the obesity rate in children.
Wow. You know, wow. You said it increases milk contributes to obesity in children.
One article compared it saying it's no different than drinking soda.
It's no different than drinking what?
Soda, as far as, contributions to the obesity problem in children.
Wow. And we're sitting here, we're talking about milk. And like I say, I'm talking about milk because it's the first thing we give our children in the morning. It's the first thing they have with their cereal. It's the first thing they have with breakfast in general most of the time. Or in some cases, sometimes it's the only thing they have. They might just have a cup of milk and before hitting the door. Am I wrong, Queen?
No.
And so you're feeding your children something that's not meant for them to have. And so on that note, let me play this other audio cast that's going to speak to what we're talking about. And then I'm going to go on to the next subject, which is an alternative. I know we talked about the soy. We talked about cashew milk. We also talked about if you're going to buy an alternative milk, if you're going to purchase, which we do, we purchase almond milk and coconut milk. And you got to make sure it's refrigerated coconut milk, refrigerated almond milk, refrigerated cashew milk. Don't buy the shelf because it has a preservative in it that is very harmful to the body, which is carrageenan. Is that right, Queen?
Yep. Over time it builds up, it doesn't process our body properly, just breaks down.
Repeat that. I couldn't hear you. Say that louder.
I said, yeah, because the carrageenan, over long periods of time, and because it isn't a lot of our preserved foods, that it can cause to the health breaking down of our system.
When you say it's in a lot of our, so that means it's in like canned foods and stuff like that? Is that what they use it as a preservative to preserve canned foods?
It's in a lot of our preserved foods, yeah.
Frozen foods, preservatives, it's in as a preservative in frozen foods as well?
Most frozen foods contain the xanthan gum, but I'm sure it is in some. Some products actually contain both. Okay, we're going to come back to... Let me play this audio cast that's going to speak to... Let me, wrap this up about the milk, and then I'm going to go on to the next subject, which is, changing, letting go that red meat. Letting go that... Really, I'm telling you, the number one thing, let go to pork. And when it comes to all meats, really let go that pork. But let me play this audio cast, which is a small, it's not small, but it's a 3 minutes and 41 second audio cast that's talking about the negative aspects of milk and why we shouldn't be drinking it from a professional. This is coming from a health professional aspect, and so we shall continue after this.
This episode of D News is brought to you by Audible. Milk does a body something, but even if you got it, do you want it? Hey, Chuckle Cheeses, I'm Trace. Thanks for watching D News. Television has run commercials asking if we have milk and if we're drinking milk for our strong bones. Science is starting to look at this and say, hold up. A study from Uppsala University in Sweden looked at how the amount of milk consumed can affect the health in the long term of various people. And according to their results, mo milk is mo problems. The study followed over 100,000 men and women aged 39 to 79 years. The women were followed for 20 years and the men for 11 on average. Overall, their results found that people who drank 3 or more glasses of milk per day died at almost twice the rate of those who drank less than 1 glass of milk per day. So that's huge. The study published in BMJ says that the reason for the increase in death may be because of galactose, which kind of sounds like an awesome bad guy from a 90s comic book, but it's not. It's a simple sugar found in milk. They picked that sugar because of a separate study where galactose was given to animals and they died faster thanks to oxidative stress and inflammation. Basically, according to their findings, the risk of death rose 15% for every glass of milk consumed per day. And for women, it actually increased bone fractures as well not decreased as you would expect from drinking more milk. But before you freak out and dump all your dairy products, I know you're not going to do that. Cheese and yogurt and stuff, they might be okay. They have little or no galactose. Their study also found women who ate fermented cheese products were less likely to die. All this aside, the researchers ended their study by saying one of my favorite phrases, "More research is needed." I quote, "People should not change their dietary habits because of this study." Why? Because it's correlation, not causation. They can't say that milk caused them to die, just that people who drank more milk died sooner. This got me thinking. Why do we even drink the moo juice in the first place? We are not the only species on the planet to drink another species' milk, but why do we do it? There are nursing baby animals that drink milk from adopted lactating parents. We drink milk when we're very young, and that's the thing. Everything that drinks milk in the world is babies. Most animals stop drinking milk and lose the ability to digest it as they age. However, another study, also from Uppsala University, I guess the Swedes drink a lot of milk, I don't know, reports ancient Iberian DNA might indicate why we drink milk at all. The enzyme that allows us to drink milk, lactase, only evolved in the last 10,000 years. That's a blink of an eye in biological time. The reason it evolved was because of a disaster, they think. A famine. It was either adapt or die, and somehow the human body was able to form lactase persistence, or the ability to digest lactose as an adult. The drinking of milk would have allowed humans to gather vitamin D from that milk and also absorb calcium, keeping them alive and healthy longer. Similar to the newer study, they also say cheese and yogurt are better than milk, mostly because they're easier to consume due to lower levels of lactose due to fermentation. Bottom line, maybe think about cutting down on milk servings and substitute it for something like yogurt or cheese instead. Though too much dairy in general can cause health risks like weight gain, diabetes, cancer, osteoporosis. It can also cause acne, digestive distress, allergies, asthma, and more. Dairy is controversial simply because so many of us love it, but also because it's a popular consumption in the U.S. driven mainly by lobbyists in a lot of cases. You'll have to make your own decisions, so read the science and let us know what you think.
There you go. You heard it right there. We should be drinking milk. Milk is not good for the body. All them commercials back in the 80s and the 90s. Milk make the body good. All them damn signs you can see. I remember you can drive on the freeway, see a sign of a person, and you can just see their mouth with a little milk on their mouth, and milk make the bodies good. They're lying. How did the white man spend money to lie? The white man would spend as much money as he could to lie if he knows he's going to triple or double his income. Am I wrong, Phil? I mean, I think I'm right about that. Anybody got anything to say about that? I think I'm right about it. The white man is willing to gamble his all if he know he's going to make it back, triple back his money. Am I wrong? Yeah. I mean, come on, look. I mean, the money they had to have been thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, they spent from the 80s throughout the 90s with that slogan, "Milk make the body good." I remember all those commercials. Milk make the body good. Yeah, they were lying though. It does not make the body good. That's a lie.
It doesn't do the body any good whatsoever.
No,
because we are not cows. It's not made for our bodies. It is made for cows.
Exactly. So now on that note, now we got that sealed. We talked about information. I just played some audio casts of audio, basically validating what we were talking about. That milk is not good. It's not beneficial. It's not meant for us. Dr. Sebi cemented it, with his words, and I give much respect to, may he rest in peace, brother Dr. Sebi. But let me talk about the meat consumption. And also, we talked about some alternatives. Like I said, we can, you mentioned the alternative milks that we can use. Cashew milk, almond milk, coconut milk, especially. And coconut milk is really good. Coconut milk is more healthier than almond milk and more healthier. I don't know about what's the comparison to cashew milk, but coconut milk has a lot of medicinal purposes that's very healthy and beneficial to the body. Now, I'm not sure about through the process they put it through, before it get into the refrigerator in the store, if there's any of that, still some of those same medicinal purposes still apply to it, because we know that raw coconut milk from the coconut, or coconut water as well, is really beneficial. Now, I'm pretty sure when they finish processing it and it gets on the shelf into the refrigerator, just like you just talked about, the negative part of shelf coconut milk or shelf almond milk which has carrageenan or that gum stuff in it as a preservative, which is very not good for your body. Right, Queen?
Exactly.
And let me holler at my sister. I see my sister joined us here. She's here. Let me welcome my sister. I see you there, sis. What's going on with you, Queen?
Yes, I kind of got caught up a little bit, but I called in because I had found out some new information of some other chemicals that they're putting in our food besides GMO. And it's just not in our food, it's in our clothes. And they are called, it's called nanotechnology. So they are nanometer particles. And the nanometer particles consist of titanium and dioxide. And it photocatalytic oxidation. So you know what oxidation is. Oxidation is a molecule that's in the cells that damage the cells, eventually kills off the cells. Okay? So now they not just using GMO to put in the food, in our products, in our cosmetics. They are also using a molecule, an atom, which is called nanometer technology.
Nanometer technology. I mean, that doesn't even sound like a byproduct of anything. That sounds more like some type of technology they've created. Am I wrong?
Yes, they are taking metallic particles and molecules and using it to insert in our clothes and in our food and cosmetics. And what it does is very harmful to humans, and because it has titanium in it, dioxide, and it has it's called glycerol in it, and it creates oxidation that damages the cells, that kills the cells. So it's in also, I like to, if you have time where I can read this little article about it.
Go ahead. I mean, is it long? Because I don't want to get off our subject of talking about also giving people an alternative of what they can do. I want to, if we're going to talk about this, let's also give the people an alternative of what they can do. Because a lot of people, we leave them hanging. We don't leave nobody hanging about, okay, we shouldn't do this, but what can I do to change it and what I need to do? Go ahead.
Okay, let me try to, sums it up and make it, I'm going to try my best to sums it up. Okay. Nanotechnology is a creation and manipulation of a tiny object at a level of molecules and atoms. Okay, nanometer is 1 billion of a meter of 100 1,000th in diameter of a human hair. Okay, so it's real tiny. It's okay. Let's go here by the application. Scientists are applying nanotechnology to the wide range of industry, including food packaging, kitchenware, personal care, medicine, electronics, clothing, sports, equipment, fertilizers, and pesticides. Okay? Let me scroll down some more. So I'm trying to make it brief. In foods and proponents says that nanotechnology can boost the target nutrition. So they're saying that they're trying to boost the nutrition that's in our food with this titanium of a molecule. Okay, but it boosts and target nutrition, extend food shelf life, improve taste and texture, and detect bacteria contamination. Okay, a little bit more. There are 600 nano foods and 400 to 500 nano food packaging application on store shelves. Toddler Health is a nutritional supplement containing nano iron particles that claim to offer toddlers increased availability. Okay, now let's talk about what's in the nano particle. It's the health risk. Like genetically modified food products of nanotechnology pose risk to human health and their environment. Nanoparticles are more chemically reactive than larger particles because they are so small. They have greater access to the human body than larger particles. They can be inhaled, penetrated through the skin, gain access to tissue and cells, and cross the blood-brain barriers. Assessing the risk of nanotechnology is lagging far behind. There is virtually no data on chronic long-term effects on people, other organisms of the wide environment, wrote by British scientist John Lawton. Okay?
Wow.
Give me like one more minute. Initial studies raised red flags. A recent study published in Nature shows that carbon nanotubes may inhabit the same cancer-causing potential as asbestos, asbestos. Okay, it's the name of some cancer. Okay, in tests on rats, nanosilver has also been shown to be toxic to the liver, brain, and stem cells and may harm beneficial bacteria.
Wow. My question is, why would you release anything like that into the populace, knowing the possible effects of it? And why would you also release something like that into our food our food produce, or any part of our food produce, regardless if it's meat, vegetation, our roots or vegetables, and why would you release some shit like that, knowing the fact that what you're doing is altering the DNA of anything that you introduced it into? I mean, like I say, that's what these devils are do. These devils are destructive. These devils are destructive.
Putting it into our clothing. And it's so small that it can enter into your pores, into the bloodstreams, into your cells.
Wow. And this is the reason why I say the bottom line, speaking like this, when you're talking about this type of technology, now we're talking about growing your own vegetation is of no use almost. But at the same time, it's still beneficial and is of necessity. But at the same time, we risk the fact that these devils have created nanotechnology now that can infiltrate almost anything. I recall you're saying that it can be in the pots, it can be in the food, it can be in it can penetrate your skin, wow! Like I say, my goodness. That was some good information right there that you just showed up. That was some very good information. But at the same time, I don't want nobody being discouraged from making changes that's beneficial to their family. You feel me? And that's what it still come down to. Because see, we're dealing with people now when it comes to our people who have given up on the productivity of life from the aspect of caring about who they are and where they come from. You feel me? And so when you talk about what the white man is doing, it can make you just say, damn, it's like there's nothing you can do. And there is something that we can do. And it's going to start with the mothers. It's going to start with the women. It's going to start with the women caring about what they're teaching their children and caring about what they're not teaching their children. You feel me? And so that's what it comes down to. I wanted to mention about the fact that, other alternatives that we can do. We have to change. We have to stop eating all this gluten down bread, this laden down bread that's filled with nothing but white man's wheat. You can't even buy a piece of bread from the store without some form of white man's European wheat in it, or filled with sugar and gluten and other additives and preservatives. basically we need to start making our own bread. We need to start making our own bread. You feel me? Some of the things, and when we talk about what our indigenous ancestors, the things that they used, even when it comes to things that they drank teas, sassafras tea, which is taken from the sassafras plant. A lot of berry teas that were done with dried berries and dried fruits. They made a lot of teas. So our people drank a lot of teas. On top of the fact they drank a lot of water. Okay? So we need to fill our bodies with fresh, clean, some people say alkaline water. Some people just said just filtered water. But we need to fill our bodies with clean water. We need to also stop eating so many glutenated breads that are filled with nothing but gluten and sugar and white man's wheat. And when you talk about the type of breads that indigenous people ate, acorn bread, that's an indigenous bread. Bean bread, corn bread, you feel me? Bread that was made with hickory nuts. So these are alternatives that we can do at home. And, that's another thing. I grew up, when I remember how I grew up with my grandmother and my mother used to cook a lot. My grandmother used to cook a lot. You don't see that going on today. A lot of grandmothers today ain't cooking like their grandparents did. And so these are habits that we need to change in our own personal life with our families at home, which can generate and amplify to our children and teach them to do the same thing. You feel me? And so these are changes that we must and we can make, people. I also, let me see, I got some information I wanted to read. When it comes to us changing our diet from eating red meat, indigenous people, Aboriginal Americans, our people did not eat red meat. And we definitely didn't eat pork. I said this on the show last week. The pig was bought here, just like the cow was bought here. And both creatures are basically man-made, modified creatures. Okay? I'm right here looking at pork right here. Pork. When it comes to eating pork products, which are loaded with artery-clogging cholesterol, saturated fats, is a good way to increase your waistline, increase your chances of developing deadly diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, osteoporosis, Alzheimer's, asthma, and more. Just from the pig. I just read this. You can go find this on any Wikipedia site. You can find it. Actually, this came from 10 Reasons Not to Eat Pig from PETA. Favorite people who talk about what you PETA is good for telling you what you should and should not eat. I like PETA because a lot of people say I'm an animal activist. Yeah, but they're gonna tell you the raw and uncut truth though, or why you should not be eating these animals, and that's what's good about PETA. Okay, see, I'm on PETA's website right now. It says it is a fact: ham, sausage, bacon, strips will go right to your hips. Eating pork products which are loaded with artery clogging, cholesterol, saturated fats is a good way to increase your waistline, increase your chances of developing deadly diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, osteoporosis, Alzheimer's, asthma, and importance. Research has shown that vegetarians are 50% less likely to develop heart disease. Let me say that again. It says research has shown. This is from the PETA website, okay? Research has shown that vegetarians are 50% less likely to develop heart disease. And they have a 40% they have 40% of a chance of not getting cancer because they don't eat meats. Plus, meat eaters are 9 times more likely to be obese than pure vegetarians. Now, this was a statistic that was taken. Okay? All right. 97% of pigs in the United States today are raised in factory farms where they never run across sprawling. I don't care about all that about how they treat the pig and the conditions, because pigs are not native to America. That's why I don't care. That it's a European animal. They can go deal with that in Europe. Okay, look about them. Going down to number 3. Think that you can outplay play. See, now he's talking about loving an animal and all that. I ain't finna go into all about loving a pig and all that other stuff. The hidden dangers of pork. Check this out. Hepatitis. I didn't know pork was tied to hepatitis. But check this out. Thanks to a revival of nose-to-tail eating, has redeemed itself among the enthusiasts, especially liver, and a prize. I'm going down. Okay, let me go down. In developed nations, pork liver is the top food-based transmitter of hepatitis. Look at me, see that again. In developed nations, like America is one of the developed nations, in developed nations, pork liver is the top food-based transmitter of hepatitis E, a virus that infects 20 million people each year and can lead to the actual illness of fever, fatigue, jaundice, vomiting, joint pain, stomach pain, enlarged liver, and sometimes liver failure and death. Most hepatitis E cases, most hepatitis E cases are stealthy, symptom-free, but pregnant women can experience violent reactions to the virus, including fulminant hepatitis, which is a rapid offset liver failure, and a high risk of both maternal and fatal mortality. So basically, I mean, let me do it. I can go on and on about pork, okay? Pork is bad for you. And, you know, you got people, you know, especially my people, the indigenous, ignorant, so-called AKA African Americans, who will say, I'm not giving up my pork. But I really don't think giving your life just to hold on to something that's totally destructive to your health and the health of your family and your children is really worth it. You feel me? And so we have to learn to change the way we eat. That's when it comes to the pig. Red meat is also bad. Indians did not eat red meat. My queen, I found some information. Matter of fact, where that information at? I want to read this information. Talking about, like I said, cows were brought here, just like the pig was brought here. Let me go on down here right quick. Let me get this information right here. I want to read. Do you, Queen, you still on the line?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, you got that information right there. We was going to read on the air about the cattle that was brought here. Yeah, on the plantation poisoning documentation right here. It talks about 1525. Go ahead and read that.
The historical timeline.
Yeah.
In 1525, the first cattle brought to the Americas arrived at Veracruz, Mexico.
Yeah, go ahead and read that.
Says the first cattle to arrive in the New World landed in Veracruz, Mexico in 1525. Soon afterwards, some made their way across the Rio Grande to proliferate in the wild. They became known as Texas cattle. Soon after, some of the Spanish settlers transported cattle to South America from the Canary Islands and Europe. More followed, and cattle multiplied rapidly through New Spain, numbering the thousands within a few years.
Wow.
And then in 1624, then the English were bringing in their cows.
And when it comes to the English, like I say, the majority of so-called black people don't even realize that their dietary way of eating, they're basically eating the way white people taught us to eat, because that's the way they used to eat. White people don't eat the way they used to eat anymore. Let me read. I got some information right here I want to read, okay? And this is taken from a food timeline of colonial America from the 17th to the 18th century. Check this out. Most New Englanders had a simple diet. Their soil and climate allowing limited varieties of fruits and vegetables. Did you hear that? Let me read that again. It says most New Englanders, that means Europeans from England, had simple diets. Their soil and climate allowed limited varieties of fruits and vegetables. Basically, they could not grow all the fruits and vegetables in England that we grew here in Americas. They had a limited variety of fruits and vegetables. I just read that. Now, let me go on. In 1728, the Boston Newsletter estimated the food needs of middle-class gentlemen or genteel family. Breakfast was bread, milk. Dinner consisted of pudding, followed by bread, meat, roots, pickles, vinegar, salt, cheese. Did you hear that? This is what they were eating. This is what white people was eating in 1728. Tell me how is that far from what we do today? They just said their breakfast consisted of bread and milk. The first thing they ate in the morning was milk and bread, gluten down sugared bread, and cow's milk. And then it said their dinner consisted of pudding, more sugar and gluten, followed by bread and meat.
Wow.
Wait a minute. Then it says,
bread.
no, exactly. Then they ate some roots. Then they ate some pickles, vinegar, okay, and then salt and cheese. Then it says supper was supper was the same as breakfast. Supper was the same as breakfast. Each family also needed raisins, currants, suet, flour, eggs, cranberries, apples, and where they were children, food for inter-meal eating. Small beer was the beverage. They ate beer. Small beer was beverage. Molasses for brewing and flavoring was needed. Butter, spices, sugar, sweet meats were luxuries, as were coffee, tea, chocolate, and alcohol beverages other than beer. Now, this is the way they ate, okay? So look how we eating today. Now, the first thing you heard me read was that the first thing they ate for breakfast was bread and milk. Then it said for dinner, pudding, bread, and meat. And then they said they had some vinegar and pickles, and they had some cheese. That's not too far from when you look at the diet today, or the way so-called black people eat. The first thing they do is get up in the morning. The first thing we all want to do is eat a bowl of cereal. You feel me? Some milk. You feel me? And some toast. This is a customary diet that was given to us by our oppressors.
Bread and milk.
Bread and milk. Toast is bread. Okay?
So it's serious.
Let me go on down to the second part of this article. Okay? And that article that I just read, that was taken from a history book called A History of Food and Drink in America by Richard J. Hooker, and it was written in 1981. So if anybody want to go find what I just read, you can go get the book. It was a book titled A History of Food and Drink in America by Richard J. Hooker, okay, written in 1981. Let me continue on. English settlers in the 17th century ate 3 meals a day. Listen again. Europeans from England, English settlers in the 17th century ate 3 meals a day, as they had in England. For most people, breakfast consisted of bread, cornmeal mush. Now, I want you to know they got cornmeal mush from the Indians. They didn't know nothing about no cornmeal mush until they came to America. So they did not bring that here. They ate bread, they said cornmeal mush, and milk, or bread and milk together, and tea. Even the gentry might eat mostly in the morning, although they could afford meat or fish for dinner, or elsewhere in the colonies, as was midday. Through the wealthy were likely to have as food for. Excuse me, my eyes just jumped as I was reading. Wealthy were like to do as their peers in England did, and they had always done in the mid of the afternoon. New England gentry had great variety of food at the table. An everyday meal might figure only 1 or 2 meats with pudding, tarts, and vegetables. The difference between more prosperous households and modest ones might be in the quality and quantity of the meats served, meaning they always had meats with their breakfast or their dinners. Supper was similar. Meal often similar to breakfast. Bread, cheese, mush, hasty pudding, warmed over meat from the noon meal. Supper among the gentry was also sociable meals and might have been warm from food, meat, and shellfish such as oysters in the season. But basically, these people mostly ate meat. That was their main course, meat. Okay? This is something that we have to change in our own diets. Especially speaking for myself, I have to admit that, being with my queen and my wife and my partner who I've been with for almost 20 years, and her, not liking to eat meat, it was a change that I literally had to make myself. And finding out that indigenous people, let me tell you something, people. Indigenous people, our ancestors, did not eat mostly meat. They mostly ate vegetation. Let me scroll down. I got something I want to read in reference to our people being a people of vegetation. 96% of the indigenous diet consisted of vegetation. So let me read this right here. Okay, I got an article I want to read right here right quick. But you know what? Before I go on to read this article, time is ticking down. I had an audio cast I want to play by Dr. Sabi that spoke to the fact of how bad meat can be, okay? But before I read that, let me read this right quick. This is titled Native American Vegetarianism, okay? The history of veganism. Among many of this is a person who's a Choctaw Indian who's speaking, okay? Among my own people, the Choctaw Indians of Mississippi and Oklahoma, vegetables and the tradition of diet mainstay. A French manuscript of the 18th century transcribes the Choctaw vegetarian leaning in their shelter and food. The homes were constructed of not skin, but of wood, mud and bark and cane. The principal food eaten daily from the earthen pots was of a vegetarian stew containing corn, pumpkin, and beans. The bread was made from corn and acorns. Other common favorites were roasted corn and corn porridge. Meat in the form of small game was a frequent repast. In other words, they ate small animals when they did have meat. The ancient artistically embroidered dress for the women and cotton breeches for the men. Choctaws have never adorned their hair with feathers. That's not true. The rich land of the Choctaw in present-day Mississippi were so greatly covered by 19th century Americans that most of the tribes was forcibly removed to what is now called Oklahoma. Oklahoma was chosen both because it was largely uninhabited and because several explorations of the territory had deemed the land barren and useless for the purpose. Wow, basically they put them over there because they said they didn't think they can grow anything. The truth, however, was that Oklahoma was so fertile a land that it was an Indian breakfast. That is, it was used by Indians on all sides as for agriculture and resources. Although many Choctaws suffered and died during the removal on the infamous Trail of Tears, those that survived built new and successful homes in Oklahoma, and their agricultural genius intact. Okay, I wanted to read. Okay, I didn't get down to what I wanted to read. Let me read down here. George Catlin, a famous 19th century Indian historian, described the Choctaw land of southern Oklahoma in 1840 this way. The ground was almost literally covered with vines, producing the greatest profusion of delicious grapes, and hanging in such endless clusters. Our progress was oftentimes completely arrested by hundreds of acres of small plum trees. Every bush that was in sight was so loaded with weight of its fruit that they were, in many instances, literally without leaves on their branches. Basically, they had vegetation going on in their land. They grew lots of fruit trees. This was just some excerpts that I took showing you that our people know how to grew their own stuff. They grew their own vegetation. Okay, let me read down and talk about the health of our people, the health of ancient Indian indigenous Aborigines in the Choctaw, the Cherokee. Let me read this. That the hunter-gatherer was healthy, there is no doubt. Weston Price noted. Weston Price was a European historian, noted. Almost completely absence of tooth decay and dental deformities among Native Americans who lived as their ancestors did. They had broad faces, straight teeth, and fine physiques. This was true of the nomadic tribes living in the far northern territories of British Columbia and the Yukon, as well as the weary inhabitants of the Florida Everglades, who were finally coaxed into allowing him to take photographs. Skeletal remains of the Indians of Vancouver that Price studied were similar, showing a virtually absence of tooth decay, arthritis, and absence of arthritis and any other kind of bone deformity. TB non-existent among Indians who ate as their ancestors had done, and the women gave birth with ease. Price interviewed the beloved doctor roaming in Alaska. So let me stop right there. Basically, our people didn't have disease, didn't have arthritis, didn't have physical deformities. They were healthy because they ate a healthy diet. They ate mostly vegetation. They didn't eat all this mess that we eat today: gluten, flour, wheat, sugar, processed sugars, milk from a cow, and then all these byproducts and preservatives that these white devils are putting in the food, and also they're infecting the waters with toxicities because of their chemicals and stuff. People, we got to wake up. And the bottom line, we can start little by little by changing the way we eat, changing the way we think. All right, anybody else that got anything they want to say or add to what I just said? Go ahead, Sister McQueen. Go ahead, y'all verberate on this.
I kind of wanted to give a solution to the nano information, if I will.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
What could a person do?
Yeah.
Because of the molecule that creates the oxidation, I can advise for people to eat a lot of garlic, because garlic has a lot of antioxidant in it. So you want to neutralize the oxidation that's in your blood. It's in your blood before it gets to your brain or into your cells. So you want to what you want to do is neutralize the oxidation, and the only way you can neutralize the oxidation is to eat fresh, like you were saying, fruits and vegetables that contain oxidation, anti-oxidation, and herbs. Herbs is very good also. And majority of the food that's good to eat is garlic, ginger, and mind you, they are also antibiotics. Let me see. I had it all written down right here. Give me a few seconds. Okay, your green leafy vegetables. And also, mind you, I want to also say that you want to detox your body from the heavy metals. Because basically, titanium are a form of metal. They're all metallic that go against that conflict and destroy and damage your cells. So if you want to do a heavy metal detox, you want to get you one bunch of cilantro, one bunch of parsley, 3 stalks of celery, and 1/4 of lemon. And you want to detox for, I think it's 14 days. 14 days. You want to take this 3 times a day to remove the metal, because the metal is what's destroying and damaging and killing your cells. And it creates brain damage. It creates Alzheimer's. It creates pain and joint pain, arthritis, intestinal tract infections, colon cancers. So you want to eliminate these heavy metals, which is ions, that's damaging your cells.
Okay. Yeah, my sister giving out that insight and that wisdom. That's why our true doctors are the women. I mean, anybody, if they go back to their great grandparents and their grandparents who had all types of home remedies, and that's what we need to do. Our women need to go back and start to re-educate themselves what our ancestors would do. I mean, I was matter of fact, I'm gonna do a podcast and we're gonna have to talk about some of the things that my sister know about, some of the things that my queen know about, which are basically home remedies that can actually not only detoxify you, but also healthy ways of eating and other ways of also getting your children to eat more healthy. These are things that we need to do, people. Before I get off the air, I wanted to play this audio cast by Dr. Sebi, which he's talking about why we should not eat meat. Okay, we got to get off that red meat, people. Let that poison pork go. Let that cow go, because that cow is not what you think it is. That cow is a man-made manifestation. Again, the cow is a man-made manifestation. He's a hybrid. He was created. The cow was created. It ain't real. It was not created by nature. Let me play this, and we shall return.
Preacher man, let me tell you something. If there's anyone that should maintain his composure at this table, should be you. You are the academician. You were the one that went to school of divinity. I didn't have any kind of schooling. I didn't even have kindergarten. So you should be more civil with your tongue. You told folks that I'm disgraceful because I smoke marijuana. I said, but that is the God in heaven truth. I will always smoke marijuana until I die. But you see, I can't violate God. You violate God on many levels, I said, preacher man. Just go to the book of Genesis. The herbs are for the healing of the nations. In the book of Genesis, in the book of Revelation, in the book of Ezekiel. How did you happen to miss that? I said, I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to try to help you. I said, whenever a black man put starch and blood in his mouth, not only would he deny God, which every preacher on the planet is exhibiting today, and you are one of them. And I'm not blaming you preachers to do that, because we didn't know how effective starch and meat could be against the Creator. They put us in a state of stupor. Could you imagine that the Bible states that the herbs are for healing and the fruits is for meat?
Doctor, you don't eat any meat?
No, I don't eat any meat.
No beef?
No.
No pork?
No.
No chicken?
No. And today
fish?
my wife wants me to go and eat some fish. But you know something?
They got some group of fish here.
Look, I tell you, man, don't tell me about it. I hate to come to the Bahamas.
No, but let me come to this subject.
I'm going to put a piece of fish in my mouth tonight, but I'm going to tell my wife, don't try that again.
But what is wrong with a piece of stew beef? What's wrong with some nice fresh pork? What's wrong with some nice chicken breasts and so on? What does that do to the body?
Okay, but
that is harmful.
Okay, I'm going to use myself and my clients as an example.
All right.
I was only 30 years of age, and I was totally impotent.
30?
30, no, I was impotent at 20. No, I was impotent at 28.
28?
Yeah, because...
you're supposed to be firing on all cylinders.
I wasn't firing on any. I was dead, down for the count. I was 27 when I was diagnosed as having diabetes. I was born with asthma, so I had asthma for 27 years plus diabetes. At 28, I found myself impotent. Oh my God, impotent at 28, all the way to 30. But I was eating the thing that you said because my mother know how to cook red beans.
Yeah.
She even put a bit of syrup in it to make it kind of sweet, or sugar. And coconut milk and rice. Coconut milk and the beans with this rice and this nice little piece of chuleta, pork chop. I thought my mama loved me. But what I found out later, her and I was talking, she said, how do you feel about me feeding you all these things that were bad for you? I said, Mom, did you know what you were doing? She said, no, I said, that is what we have to do now. We have to clean up, Mother. Mother, we have been a victim of 600 years of imposition. We don't know what we should eat, Mom. Mom, I escaped death because I went to the United States and I began to listen. I was cured by a Mexican in Mexico in 1964. I was 31 years of age.
When you say cured, that means your impotence was
eliminated. You heard Brother Dr. Sabi?
So your asthma was eliminated.
You hear him?
Yeah.
He said he ain't got the diabetes no more. Listen to him. Listen to him. He said he ain't got none of that no more.
Mexico, 1964. I was 31 years of age.
When you say cured, that means your impotence was eliminated.
Oh, eliminated. So
your asthma was eliminated.
I don't have that anymore. I don't have diabetes.
You hear that? He said a Mexican. He went to Mexico and got cured. He went to Mexico and got cured. I'm just wondering, what did that Mexican know? In Mexico. And due to the fact that the Mexican was in Mexico, I'm believing and I believe I'm knowing that the Mexican gave him some indigenous cures. Indigenous Indian cures. Because it changed Dr. Sabi's life after that. He was not the same no more.
He stopped eating meat.
Go ahead, Queen.
But he stopped eating all that meat.
Because if you listen to what he said his mama made, he said, beans, sweet beans with some molasses on it, with rice and coconut milk. Now I'm thinking, all right, then I'm waiting. I'm waiting as he's saying, I'm waiting for the bad part of what he was, and then then the bad part came in. He said pork. Mm-hmm. And his mama told him it was bad. But she didn't know any better. But look, he said, Mama, we got to change it. He didn't say him. He said, Mama, we got to change this. So I'm telling all my sisters out there, all my indigenous sisters, those who know they're indigenous, it's going to take you guys to change things for our present day future. When I say present day future, I don't mean things going to be changed today, starting today to the future. You feel me? Making that change by example. By example. I give much credit to my wife, to my queen, who constantly presented to me and was telling me, you need to stop eating that beef. She used to tell me all the time before I stopped eating that beef. I ain't ate beef. It's been years now, but she used to all the time, you stop eating that beef. You stop eating that beef. You going to stop eating that beef. And I said, no, I'm not. I ain't going to never stop. I don't eat beef no more. Several years she knew what she was talking about. She was speaking it into existence. She was using that magic. Girl used that magic on me. That was some good magic, though. So exactly. So it's going to let y'all, you heard what Dr. Sadie said, and I didn't play the whole thing because if I would have continued the audio cast, he talked about how the meat, eating that red meat, eating that pork, stress you out. It stresses you out. I'm gonna let matter of fact, my sister, go ahead and comment on how meat can stress you out, sis. I want you to comment on that.
Yes. What happens is that it's the way that they take care of the animal. They put the animal in so much stress that the adrenaline produces stress hormones that goes into the cells of the animal. So we already know that cells create organs and tissue, flesh are cells. So when the animal is under distress, it releases toxic hormones along with stress hormones. And when you buy the meat and cook the meat, you are eating the toxicity. You're eating fear. The hormones are fear. So you have hormones and chemicals in your body that releases depends on what experiences that you're having. So if you are in fear or under stress and you are being injected with all these different antibiotics and chemicals, and your body begins to want to protect itself, and it releases these chemical hormones that is very toxic. very toxic, not just to the animal, but to the human. Because whatever the animal is feeling, whatever hormones are being released into the cells of the animal, you are eating the same substance.
And this goes into why we got so many so-called black folks, aka African Americans, who are in all factual, indigenous, biological reality. You are Aboriginal American, aka Black Indians. This also shows how it encourages the negative behavior in so-called young black men. They eating all this red meat. They eating totally unhealthy. They're not getting enough vegetation and enough roughage in their diet. So what used to be at one time with our people, 96 to 98% vegetation, now we got 96% meat, pork, candy, processed sugars, and junk. So now you got a physically unhealthy person who is being fed, also psychologically being fed negativity from the streets, from the white devil, from this system, from the school system, from the police. You feel me? So basically you're creating a culture of people who don't know how to act right because they've never been taught how to eat right and never been taught how to act right along with eating right. Do you feel me?
Exactly, because it also alters the serotonin and the endorphins that's in the brain that creates, your mood and your emotions, the way you feel and how you respond to certain things and challenges in life. So if you're eating meat, and me, myself, I'm worried about all meat because the way the stress that they put the animal, chicken, fish, all of it. All the meat is very high acidic, is very high in acidic, and it also be due to the way they are killing the animal is creating the hormone of stress, and other toxicity hormones and chemicals are being released, not just in red meat, but in all the animals. And then not only that, they are being what you call engineered. Okay, they are being laboratory made. So when you go into the store and buy your meat, okay, you don't know if that animal is being engineered. You don't know if that animal being stressed and the amount of toxic hormones and chemicals has been released into the animal. And this is not something that you can cook away. I don't care how you like to eat your sausage burnt. I don't care how you like to, fire is not going to kill the molecules and particles of hormones that's in the body of an animal. Because you cannot kill particles and molecules because at its finest point is energy.
Well, let me also comment on what you're saying, so to be clear about what you're saying, that people, so they can comprehend. See, people already know. Anybody with any basic education knows that when you get upset, it releases a hormonic chemical in your brain when you get upset, just like when you get excited, just like when you get happy, or just like when you get horny. When a man or a woman gets horny, it releases a chemical in your brain and in your body. So my sister is breaking down the fact that when these animals are being terrified, when these animals know they are going to their death, when these animals are being crowded in small cages, when these animals are not allowed to eat natural eat out in the wild or eat the natural vegetation of the land, but they're being fed chemical raised corn. This corn that they're giving us and the corn that they're giving the animals are not natural. It's chemically, biologically mutated corn. You feel me? And so basically these animals are not going through a natural, normal process of life. They being put through stress. They being chemically fed, and they being crowded, and they being broken down. And so we're being fed the same thing by eating the animal. Now we're being fed fear. We're being fed stress. We're being fed.
Right.
Go ahead, sis. And Queen, you sitting back there listening. You can reverberate on this. I want the women's perspective.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's exactly how it works. So
exactly. So the serotonin in your brain, you have the serotonin, and you have a chemical that's called GABA. And the serotonin, it boosts and give you an optimum feeling of relaxation, security, happiness, hormones that make you feel good. Okay, and when these hormones is being invaded by ions and toxins, it depletes these chemicals, these endorphins, to help you stabilize your own chemicals and hormones in your body. It depletes the molecules and the atoms that's in the serotonin. And then it causes you, once your serotonin, you don't get enough serotonin in your brain is not releasing enough serotonin, or it has been depleted, then you will begin to act out in ways that you don't understand. You will wake up angry, you will wake up stressed out, you will wake up, feeling depleted, distressed. Now, then you have to go to a psychiatrist and go see some psych doctor that's going to give you medication to try to boost up your serotonin, which is going to cause other problems in your physical body.
Okay. Go ahead.
So there is help. There is some herbs out there that will help balance the chemicals in your brain and also the endorphins. Okay, and I'm just going to read a few of these herbs that will be very helpful. It's for people that suffer from depression, schizophrenic, anxiety. Huh?
Go ahead. I read that. I want the people to hear this.
Okay. Anxiety and I'm gonna name a few of these herbs. You want to get you some ginseng, some red clover, some dandelion root. You want dandelion root, peppermint. Also boosts the endorphins. Black tea, green tea, milk thistle, and let's see. Okay, that's what I have so far. And also you can get some, go to the organic store and get you some essential oils. So therapeutic herbs is just as good as tea herbs. Matter of fact, therapeutic herb gets into the bloodstream much faster. Like what I have on the side of my bed, I go get me some lavender. I go get me some. They have a few herbs that will help with depression and anxiety. One is called Lang Lang, YLANG. Okay. And what I do is I take me some coconut oil or some almond oil as a carrier, a base, and you want to maybe put a tablespoon or two into your what you call them things, the candle, oil candles, and then you want to put about 5 drops of, for an example, lavender essential oil. And put it on the side of your bed. And also you want to get you some rosemary essential oil, and you want to burn these oils when you sleep and when you get up in the morning. Okay? So you have it going in your system throughout the night, and then you will wake up starting your day with these aromatherapeutic essential oils. Okay.
In the process,
this would help me.
In the process of people doing this, making a change in your diet, and I would encourage people that look, it doesn't take anything, but just going back to the way our ancestors lived, the way they ate, You know, if you go back to your great-great-grandmother, you'll see your great-great-grandmother didn't drink any milk. If she did drink any milk, it was so little, it was like she didn't drink any. A lot of times I can remember when I was a kid growing up, my grandmother's milk went bad in the refrigerator before it got finished because hardly anybody drunk any of that damn milk in the first place. So sometimes she wouldn't even buy any milk. We wouldn't even have any milk in the house. Sometimes when we would think about wanting milk, it would be like, wow, you know, hey, we ain't got no milk. This man ain't no milk been in there in a while. And that's because nobody don't drink no milk. So we need to cut out the milk. We need to cut out the red meat, cut out the pork, you know, and look, I'm still on a personal level, you know, me, JC, aka Afro Black, I am still learning and growing myself. So I'm teaching my people as I even grow myself with my family, and I'm learning from my sister, I'm learning from my wife, I'm learning on my own, I'm doing my own research, and this is what we need to do as a family and as a community and as a tribe. We got to learn to grow and teach one another, and we can learn that we can do this together. And this is what we're going to do, people. So on that note, my show is actually over. It's been over a long time. I went way past my time. It was a lot of information I still didn't get a chance to share. Maybe I can do something with it on another podcast, which I will do, because I'm not going to just stop it and just let this be one subject matter talking about why we eat the way we do. I'm going to continue this because our people need to change and learn to let go these European traditions that we don't even want to call or label European when they are. They are behaviors and practices of our oppressors, those who oppressed our ancestors and continue to process. I don't see the white man teaching us anything about the way our people originally ate. They want to take that and give that to their own so-called $5 whitewashed Indians who claiming our culture, as I call them, culture vultures. So, on that note, let us get up out of here. Anybody got any last words? Sis, come on, get something, at least to leave the people with something, sis.
I'm going to leave them with this, is that until you decide to eat the right foods, which is a majority of your fruits and vegetables, green leafy vegetables, and take your herbs, you're going to have some type of psychological and physical illness and pain until you change your diet, because what's happening that you are mutating your cells. That mutation of your cells is killing off the cells that's keeping you, your DNA and your RNA cells that's keeping you alive. So I just want to.
Okay, she faded out.
Slowly, unconsciously kill yourself.
Okay, and you might want to repeat that last part. You kind of went out. Your mic went out.
What part?
I don't know.
What's the last thing you heard?
You were saying we need to eat our leafy vegetables and greens, which that's sounding good about right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, you want to make sure you're eating your green leafy vegetables. You want to eat the rainbow. You want to, like Dr. Oz says, eat the rainbow. Because when you're not getting the right nutrition and you're lacking vitamin B, your vitamin Bs and your vitamin D, it's going to create mental illness and physical pain in your body. Okay? So don't believe the hype, what your doctors and the physicians is telling you. You are having this depression and anxiety, and you are suffering due to the lack of your own ignorance, because you're not putting the right elements into your body. So just remember and look it up yourself that 98% of your physical illness and mental illness comes from the food that you eat.
And that's kind of remind me, like I said, our ancestors, our indigenous Aboriginal ancestors, 96 to 98% of their diet was vegetation. Less than 4% of their diet was meat. So we need to go back to that. Doesn't mean, see, look at that. That's not cutting out meat altogether. That's cutting out certain meats and limiting the meat that you're eating. So if you don't want to be a vegan and you just want to be a vegetarian, like, me, I still like my chicken, like I'm going to end my show on, and I like my fish. But everything else is vegetation. Queen, last words, Queen?
Just make sure you're looking and reading what you're putting in your food. That food that you eat, that you buy from the store, know what you're putting in your body. Read about it, learn about it.
Yeah.
So on that note, you heard what the women said. Read about it, learn about it, and So on that note, we gotta go. I'm going to get off the air. I'll be back next Indigenous Delicious Sunday to drop nothing but the raw and uncut here on the Black Village. Hopefully, I can have my queen or my sister join me again because I enjoy letting people hear. I enjoy hearing from a feminine, divine perspective and dropping that raw and uncut. So hopefully I get my sister back here. If are both of them or one of them, that's why I like to do it. And I've been trying to get some other sisters to come too. There's another sister on Facebook who was supposed to join me. She know who she is. I'm not gonna mention her name until she come on. She want her name mentioned, but she know who she is. I want her here. She's a strong Aboriginal sister. I want them warrior sisters on my show. So on that note, I gotta go. And as I always say, I love chicken. So I'm gonna leave like this. May the great mother bring us together under the wings of her peace and her love and her joy. And as always, I love chicken. So love, peace, and chicken grease. I got to go. I'm out of here. Peace, people.
What do you mean by America is my mama?
I don't know nothing else. I wasn't eating chitlins when I was in Africa. I wasn't eating watermelon when I was in Africa. I wasn't wearing suits when I was in Africa. I wasn't getting my hair cut when I was in Africa. This bitch is my mama. This bitch is my mama. And yours too. Except I know it's mine. It's mine.
Grown food. ASC got produce. ASC about to go cool. We gon' grown food. ASC got produce. ASC about to go cool. Whipping in the kitchen. I be whipping in the kitchen. Chop it up. The slow food got you sloppy, bruh. So chop it up.
I get the C from the oranges. I get the B from the broccoli. I get the A from the milk. I get my vitamins properly. My food be packed with the minerals. I hope you taking this literal. So when you 65 plus, you should be passing your physical. Try tell them. But they did not believe me. Thought that sugar was sweet. Till I got diabetes. You better rethink your drink. This stuff is not what you think. Get you some water or something. I get it free from the sink. Keep it healthy, but still got that good taste. Got an appetite for flavor and an appetite for change. If you need a couple corners, I can get you some help. And then I see you on the vibe. Cause you need some milk.
11-year-old with some big dreams, about to make it big on the big screen. Don't pay attention to TV, cause fake food ain't what you need. Come on the house, let us chop it up. That Spencer Lemons made it popular. The youth of the truth ain't no stopping us. But the health, wealth, social change, my fruits and veggies be off the chain. Want real food for real people, gonna break it bread. Cafe, real money, that's all I need. Get the green, got clean. Wanna make 100 meals, we done cook 100 meals, cause my people gotta eat.
Grown food. ASC got produce. ASC about to go cool. We gon' grown food. ASC got produce. ASC about to go cool. Whipping in the kitchen. I be whipping in the kitchen. Chop it up. The slow food got you sloppy, bruh. So chop it up. Grown food. Chop it up. The slow food got you sloppy, bruh. So chop it up.